Jack, welcome to the Quantum Health Connection podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So
Yeah.
glad to have you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Jack. We appreciate it. Tell us a little bit of your origin story. Like, how did you get to where you are? That's where we like to usually start.
So where I am right now in Philippines in this island.
You can go there or where you are, like in your life.
All right. So yeah, um, I'll probably just start like around where I started to get my health issues and became curious around being into the space. But at that time, I was working as an electrical linesman. So that's like someone who works on power lines.
Mm.
And I never really thought that job would translate into being a job around health, like, or just like going to translate over, right? So, but it turns out like around like understanding the body from like a biophysical standpoint, you understand how the body's electric. So I've had that as a tool to kind of leverage myself to understand certain topics on a deeper level. But that's what I was doing at the time, and I was having some pretty significant health issues around like low testosterone, low dopamine, pretty pretty average gut issues to tell you the truth. Would have been some sort of yeast or bacterial issue, sleep apnea, horrible sleeps, just adrenal burnout. So like just a huge concoction, drug and alcohol addiction.
Mm.
And that was something that went on for a couple of years, to tell you the truth, of just like on and off, somewhat being a little bit health conscious, trying to dip my toes in something like the carnivore diet, keto, like all these things that kind of move the needle like a little bit, but not really, but just, you're trying to do your best at the time, I suppose. And this was all during COVID. And yeah, I just didn't really get much help from the centralized system at all, to tell you the truth. In fact, like they were probably giving me some dangerous advice, to tell you the truth. Like if I was going to continue to do it, it probably would have made me worse, which obviously you see with certain people who take medications such as like SSRIs or TRT, which is things that I was potentially opting for. It wouldn't have ended too well for me, I don't think, and it would have been more of a reliance thing as opposed to like a crutch. But I was blessed to go through that because that allowed me to um, have a bit more of an open mind, I suppose, around certain health topics. Probably a lot of the stuff that you've spoken about on podcast around just circadian biology, sunlight, eating seasonally, sleeping well, um, breath work, stress management, like all of these fundamentals that, encompass what health fundamentally is. And then on top of that, that's kind of like the 80-20 rule. And then other things, you've got little biohack supplements and stuff on top that may be leveraged as well. So I went through all that basically over the span of probably like 2 to 3 years, maybe four. And at that time, I was obviously learning a lot just about myself, but also learning externally as well, like reading lots of books, scientific papers, which I never thought I was going to be mentally capable of. But here I am. And yeah, I got to this stage where I'm like, well, I think I just had this realization that I don't want to be working my job anymore. And I want to be able to have this freedom. And I think it was like, especially during COVID, which is kind of a blessing, like seeing people work remotely and stuff. I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to live my life wherever I want to live and live somewhere where I want to live, where it's not like expensive in Australia. And, it's all pretty backwards in terms of what's going on, especially after the pandemic. I mean, they just literally announced like digital IDs, which I think is just like
Oh, I'm
crazy.
so concerned about that. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very concerning. And it's just like we're getting our freedoms taken away, but of course they're just like covering it up as something else, in terms of they're justifying the reason of it being incorporated. But obviously there's deeper levels of control around these things. And that's kind of why I left Australia, to tell you the truth, was like I just knew where it was heading.
Yeah, I heard
And
Australia was really rough with the layer control as well. I've heard that.
it was horrible during COVID. Like I was at a park one time and like military came up to me and just said, you have to leave. Like it was just like, I'm just like, this is insane. Like how are we living in a country that's meant to be,
That because
a free country?
you weren't
Yeah.
wearing a
And
mask, or because it was you just weren't allowed to be in the park.
Lockdown. They were on lockdown.
Oh,
yeah,
completely.
lockdown. Yeah.
Not even
Crazy
allowed to
lockdowns. But
either.
again, like you could walk, but then when you sit down, it wasn't something that you were allowed to do apparently. And I just think like, it's just like when that happened, I was just thinking, this is just like a communist country in disguise, to tell you the truth.
Mm.
And I I think that was the main spark that just like motivated me to just like get out, really. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been literally living out, maybe the last 2 years, living out of like a little backpack. And I saved up a bunch of money from my old job, and I was just like, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take the leap and try and make a business out of this where I can help other people And
Mm.
yeah, like, other people were in the position I was in, mentoring, like all of these things, like significant health issues. And that's where I am 2 years later. Like I've set up in the Philippines for the last 6 months, and it's been a lot more grounding, obviously, than living out of a little backpack. But yeah, that's where I am right now. I'm currently on this island, as we said before, in Siquijor, in the Philippines, it's very beautiful, very raw. The sun just rose here. I mean, there's just like nature all around me. I hear birds in the morning. Very different to living in an apartment in Melbourne, in Australia. But yeah, that's where I am now. And I've got to a level where I've been helping people one to one with some pretty complex issues, arguably more complex than mine, and seeing some pretty deep results. So it's been pretty rewarding in that case. But yeah, that's me up to this date on this beautiful island.
Oh,
Yes, in the Philippines, it sounds absolutely amazing. You must get such great quality sun, less EMF, but you also get some haunted homes. So, we
Yeah.
were talking before we started off camera about one of your recent posts, Jack, that really was, stood out to me. It was like, that's not your normal content. And it was kind of a new experience for you that you and your partner moved into this really beautiful place in this island that had a lot of good attributes, but then you quickly found out that it was truly haunted. I've never had that experience. Vanessa, I said, I don't think you just had some stuff come up in your dreams, but not like a haunted house situation. And I'm curious, Jack, about how that situation has augmented your view of quantum, and especially how, like you were mentioning before we start recording, how those kinds of energies or forces or whatever experiences can relate to our health or whatever our symptoms are.
Yeah. So it was pretty wild. And I suppose like the biggest take home from it was, as I mentioned off camera, it's like I'm deeply considering this. If someone feels stagnant from like health issues, that's where I'm like, just from like the standard stuff that I do based off like blood work, symptoms, health assessment, health history, environment, all those things that essentially encompass what this individual fundamentally needs. And if they're feeling somewhat stagnant, I'm looking at other things like methylation, gene mutations, but now I'm looking at haunted houses on top, to be honest with you, or just like dark spiritual energy and like someone living in that 24/7.
yeah.
And I mean, like the health issues, it wasn't as significant for me. It definitely was. Like I definitely felt like I was obviously stressed. I just didn't feel right. I felt heavy. I had this cold that I just couldn't really shake off. It just lingered for a long time, like probably like, so I was like in Bali, and then I think like the travel probably tired me out, and I was getting sick when I was there. And then when I got back, it was literally just like 2 or 3 weeks whilst we were living in this house where it just seemed to just not get any better. And I was just like coughing up a lot of phlegm. And funnily enough, like as we left, like it almost like literally went away. But I think like the biggest concern was my girlfriend, who she's had a history of hypothyroidism from a pretty young age, probably about 14 to 15. And we met last year and we've been working through it and we've seen some definite progress. But this like 100% made her like her symptoms worsen. So her resting heart rate when we first met was about 110 or something like that. So it's pretty high, like pretty hyperthyroid. And as we were sort of together, like, and working through it through a number of interventions around like all things that encompass health, basically, just the standard stuff that we speak about on a daily basis around like sleep, light, seasonal eating, all these things.
Mm.
Her her heart rate probably dropped down to about 90-ish, but then when we went back to this house, it went to like 115. It was just insane. And then like we went to a doctor on the mainland and we got her thyroid checked, and her T3, I don't know if you know the numbers, because this is actually the first time we tested it, but like her free T3 was like great. It said greater than 20, and the optimal range is about 3 to 6. So it was just like intense. Fortunately now, like she's feeling a lot better. She's definitely getting some relief, but yeah, it just goes to show like how much of an impact like these energies, like these darker energies that are somewhat stagnant or stuck in the physical world, can have on our bodies. It's really insane. So yeah, as I said, it's something that I'm just keeping at the back of my head now. Like if someone lives in an old house or maybe submerged in nature, like here, for example, like when you're meant to build a house here, they say that you're meant to like sacrifice a pig or a chicken and put the blood over each corner before you actually like install like the plaster and the paint and everything like that. And that essentially helps remove the spirits. So I think like there's a lot of stuff I can learn from like the people here, to be honest with you, for when I build my future home here. But yeah, it was just a very, very wild situation. And I don't think I've ever been through anything remotely close to that in terms of like doors slamming. I didn't really even mention that, but like doors were just constantly slamming, even though we made sure they were locked. Spiders were in the house all of a sudden. A glass randomly just like broke without falling, just like cracked whilst my girlfriend was trying to call a shaman to essentially cleanse the house. And apparently the neighbors all like knew about this, and they're just like, yeah, well, our kids always see like someone there, and they always feel this energy. So yeah, they didn't really tell us that until like last minute.
Well,
Um,
kids can feel that energy usually more powerfully than adults can because I think they're just more like, they're more able to feel into those energies. I feel like, so that's probably why the kids would do that. And I think there's that wisdom too in those ancient traditions. Like there's probably a reason why we did those things and they did support that, and yeah, just makes me think of like, we really are affected by like all different kinds of frequencies. Like in general, we have to realize that like we really are affected by all the things in our environment.
yeah, and that's exactly right. Like the kids are more pure,
Yeah.
and we also have like a pet bearded dragon, and like when a bearded dragon gets angry, it will start like puffing its beard to try and make itself look bigger, right? It's kind of like if you see a chicken and it's kind of like, spreading its wings to try and like, intimidate you. But randomly, like during like especially the last 3 days of that house, like our bearded dragon would just like be constantly doing this, like out of just for no reason. And it was just something that I've never seen him do before. So again, it just like adds more layers. Like he's obviously like very pure, right, as an animal. Same with like dogs. You see dogs barking at random shit. So it's just it adds another layer. It's like, well, what is going on here? And as you said, I think you said it exactly right. Like there's just these frequencies that we can tune into no matter what. And I think like that could be, I think that's a potential link that like obviously the more spiritually open you are, that's obviously a great thing, but you're open to many spirits, not just like good ones, but also like ones that are somewhat harmful or bad. I think you're become an antenna for all those frequencies and all those energies.
Mm.
Um, which
That's
yeah, you do see that.
I feel like we need energetic boundaries around that, right? Around like what we're allowing into our fields and what we're not, which is like you want to be connected, but you want to also be like having some sort of energetic boundary, which is something that's probably not so easy to foster, to have that like deeper connection, but then also have boundaries around it.
Yeah, I think that's where like shamans and anyone that has like that real deep spiritual connection to the universe, I suppose, that they are able to probably do a better job of that. And I think that's something that just like really takes a lot of exposure and training to. And yeah, I suppose for me, like only just one off situation to kind of experience it. Yeah, I think it's just like you have to kind of go through it a lot to be better at kind of creating that boundary, I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's
it was a very
it's not something we know how
yeah.
to
Yeah, so any like listeners, like it's just this is something to yeah,
do.
really consider. I think like, I even posted it in my school community. And a few people actually replied and they were saying that they had some other crazy shit happen, even crazier than mine, like around like random saxophones playing that like was connected to someone who died at the house. Another one said like his daughter was like there was like writing all over the place, and like apparently his daughter wasn't doing it, and he said his daughter said she saw someone in the morning saying like, oh hey, how did you sleep and all this, and he said he felt the heavy energy when he was there. But yeah, it's just like it's something that I suppose definitely connects with like all the biophysics of our body. Like there is just stuff that we cannot explain, and I think it's just like ties in with like other quantum effects like quantum tunneling, coherent superpositions, like all these things that you can't really comprehend, right? Because it's kind of essentially part of the quantum world, and we just come up with these mechanisms that try to explain it in the most realistic way possible, but it's literally impossible. And I think that's exactly why this occurs as well. And it's just like we can't explain it, so therefore a lot of people disregard it. But it could, as me myself, you mentioned like some sleep paralysis, like which is also I think like a connection to spirits as well, which is something I've been through, and it seemed to happen at a certain place I was at, like at a friend's house. But I think they're all these levels of connection to a darker spirit, or just like an energy, should I say, that you just can't comprehend, and we can't prove it. It's just like through experience. So yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, I think
wild.
it's we're a ways away from people being able to be a little more open-minded and encompass or embrace these kinds of ideas, right? The knowing of that. Because I mean, we talk on the podcast regularly about how emotions are very under-recognized sources, like unprocessed emotional pain or residual trauma in the tissues and whatnot, that contributes to symptomology. And so this is just one fractal of this whole right frequency way of looking at things. But I think it's huge because there's no way you can know that there's not like ancestral unresolved stuff and what family spirits are hanging out, if they're still working on their issues and how much that, because you mentioned the DNA connection, like how much that, especially, biological family. So how much that is still affecting us at a cellular or biochemical level. So I think it's absolutely fascinating. And I have so much respect for you for posting that, because
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that would not post it because it's too much or it's too out there. And I think, why are we so scared of what other people think? For one thing, I think that's what boxes us in, and we stay stuck in this mechanistic view because we're so afraid of
Mm.
what's going to happen if we speak freely and authentically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I've interacted with people online, and a lot of them are not really telling their true story in terms of, maybe they've got some health issues that they're not 100% resolved, or yeah, maybe just not the same person they are online as they are in person. Like, and what you said as well, like around, just sharing and just, sharing your experiences around things. And I think that's what makes you unique. And yeah, this is where I just get, when I'm always cautious about, like, you got to be careful who packs your parachute, because a lot of people are not showing their raw, authentic self online. And, I think everyone goes through their own battles. Like, I mean, as I said before, it was like one of the most fucking stressful things ever for me, because I just put so much love into this house, and I invested so much money into like furniture, fucking Starlink internet because it wasn't working. Like my internet didn't reach there, like just so much stuff. And yeah, it's like a very stressful thing to not be stable and not know where you're going next. And yeah, it definitely caused some symptoms within me. And I think a lot of people are just not um like, sharing their, like, you don't have to share your full story obviously, but just showing some vulnerability and just kind of expressing your experiences, not just being the same white sheep. I think that's
I
really
think
important.
that's so important, Jack, the point that you're bringing up, because I think there's a lot of people that I come across and they come to me and they're like, I'm doing all the things and I'm not really feeling resolved and da 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 da. And they're just like struggling, right? We've even doing all the quantum things and they're still struggling. And then we have to like dig deeper and we do homeopathy and we do other things, right? But I think they look to these people online who quote unquote have it all together and they never stumble or fall. They never have any problems. And that's not the truth. Like shit happens, and we're human beings, we have human experiences and we have rough days and we have things, and we get off track and we have to get back on track too. Like it's normal. And I think that when we don't authentically share that, people think there's something wrong with them when that happens to them, because they look up to us and they think, oh, they have it all together, I'm failing, I'm doing something wrong. And I think as health coaches or whatever you want to call us, it's really important to share that we have issues too that we're working on, or we have stumbles and things like that. And I really think we're doing a disservice when we're not authentic about those kinds of things.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think the whole perfectionism thing online is just bullshit, really. Like, just picking and choosing. And it's not just limited to like the health space, but just everyone. Like, you see influencers who, show relationships where like they're spending time with their loved one, and it all looks well and dandy. They look very happy, and then all of a sudden they fucking break up, and you're just like, well, what's going on there, right? So yeah, you are 100% on the money with that. And I think that's why I like to try and be as raw as possible and share my experiences. Like, I just shared an experience yesterday on X around stopping coffee, and why I'm not for coffee in this modern world. And yeah, a lot of people just seem to get like triggered, and it goes against their beliefs and stuff. But I kind of like that. Like, I'm all about like discussion in terms of just spreading your truth. And also, it's just the fact that like we're human beings, right? And like that being is a very important word there, because we are constantly being. There's days where we're feeling super motivated and happy, and um yeah, like very low stress, whereas other days are just the exact opposite, and that's okay. right? And that's kind of what I would like to probably post a bit more about. Like, it's just, yeah, it's just we're humans. We go up and down basically. And anyone who says that they don't and portray online that they're not that sort of person, it's straight up bullshit. Like, they're lying. Like, you literally
100%.
cannot be perfect every single day. We all have our own problems that we need to deal with. So yeah, I think Vanessa, you said that just like spot on.
Yeah. Well, I just see it so many times when the clients come to me and they think they're failing, and that really hits me, because I'm like, you're doing a great job. Like, how many times I have to tell clients, like, you're really doing all the things, you're working so hard on your health, you're trying the best that you can. It's like, that's what really bugs me, I think, the most out of it. But yeah, we got to just be more authentic and sharing that kind of stuff and just sharing like the real truth of what goes on in our lives. And I feel like it's so important. So yeah, I'm glad you're doing it too.
And we're on our own journey as well. So it's just, that's the thing with social media as well. It's a double-edged sword. We've got all this information, but at the same time, we've got all this information, and we've just got so, like, you just can't help but compare yourself to other people's lives. And it's just, it's your own journey. So like, you're on your own path, and it's something that you shouldn't compare. But like, obviously when you're on social media, it's very hard not to. So that's why, like, I literally tell a lot of my clients that, like, hey, not beyond the whole dopamine and doom scrolling and all of these things that are bad, like artificial light around like using social media, like just that stuff, like the emotional side of things as well, I think is just the great thing to remove because of what we just spoke about. I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, we need boundaries around that kind of thing as well, right? And if somebody's triggering you, then maybe you shouldn't follow them anymore. And that was me, fine. I don't care. Like, I don't want people to be looking at stuff that's triggering them and making them feel uncomfortable or whatever, right? So, yeah.
Well, because people don't realize that when they're like with the coffee thing, I think that's a great example. They're so triggered because there's some threat to that. They feel a threat, like they're experiencing some dissonance or
Oh, I have to not drink coffee.
yeah,
Coffee's bad, but I'm addicted to
yeah.
it. So I have to
But
stop.
why are they taking it so personally? Like, that's where the growth is. That's where the portal is to figure out why are they getting all up in who cares? Like, do your thing, drink your fucking coffee. Like, I don't care. But why are you getting so upset about what I'm doing? So there's where the portal is to go into why they're feeling so, because internally I think they're feeling a sense of lack of safety. And I talked to Vanessa a lot about safety because in my past, when I do a lot of work with people in psychotherapy, and emotions, like it's all about that sense of internal safety. Well, the truth is that I'm discovering is you can't always feel safe. Now that annoys the crap out of me, but you just can't,
No, it's
right?
okay.
But what you can do is build a stronger and stronger awareness of your own internal experience and find a way to honor and harvest that intuitive bot somatic wisdom and information so that you can help yourself, because you're not, like you said, Jack, you're not always going to have good days, you're not always going to get it right, you're not always going to do the right thing, whatever it is. But the sense of safety is being able to, like, over and over again return to your own internal home, your own compass, and then follow that. That's the trick, because, or not the trick, but that's the solution, because everyone has different opinions about what's right or wrong. And it's funny because my high school English teacher would always have this saying. He was some interesting esoteric dude. He's like, there is no right or wrong, only thinking makes it so. And I don't know where that comes from. Maybe that's from the Stoics. I don't know. But it just like irked me because I'm like, yes, pedophilia is wrong. But when you think about it, like, he's right. And so we have to create our own version of what our truth is, regardless of what anyone else thinks, right? Because we're cultivating our own reality every second. Sorry, that was a total
Yeah.
rant, but
No, 100%. And I think like the whole safety thing as well is the fact that, yeah, people are getting defensive because, again, it pushes their beliefs a little bit. Maybe it's something they use as a crutch. Like, as we know with coffee, it's not just caffeine. It's got like beta carbolines and other compounds in it that just, affect your mood in mostly a positive fashion. But like, yeah, I suppose like some people become reliant on it. And I think just with anything, it's not just coffee, but it's also just like certain diets or just looking at health from the lens of just like sunlight is the only thing that heals and completely disregard everything else. You have to move to the fucking tropics or whatever it is. Like all of these things, it's like,
Love that.
yeah, your, it's just people's beliefs. And I think we live through our experiences to have those beliefs. And when you start somewhat disrupting it, that level of safety drops. You're right. And what's the easiest way to counteract that? Like, obviously the best way is probably what you just mentioned, Heather, but the easiest way is just to be in denial about it and be like, no, you're an idiot, like blah, blah, blah. But realistically, it's like, how about we have a mature conversation and you read and understand what I'm trying to say here, that it's not just applicable, you know, like in that coffee example, I was just saying that like it's just for me personally, this is what works for me. And I'm just sharing this because it works for me. Maybe it'll be interesting for you and I'll encourage you to stop drinking coffee or something. But then obviously people just get really defensive because what we just mentioned. So yeah, it's just interesting. And I think when you see the way they react, and it's not just like in a negative way, but also in a positive way. Maybe it's just like on a coaching call, reading someone's body language and just the way they speak, it can really tell you a lot about like how they feel about something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the body never lies. There's so much information you glean from it. It's like tons. I'm curious, like well, I know you have one-on-ones and you have your school community. So how do you help clients who you can feel and tell and based on their body language and all the things they're stuck? And it's not just like a biochemical thing that you're going to be able to move the needle. Like how do you help them?
So like, so if we use an example of someone with like some sort of suppressed trauma, is that like an appropriate example here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I suppose like the thing is, right, if someone has some sort of trauma and you kind of make the assessment where you speak to them about their childhood or their relationship with their parents or what happened to them when they were younger, whatever the situation was, and maybe they remember it, maybe they don't. And I suppose the thing is, right, like I look at everything like from this broad spectrum perspective, because if someone had like trauma when they were younger, we've got to understand like that will induce stuff like local hypoxia in the brain, mitochondrial dysfunction, neural inflammation, vagal tone disruption. So you got to think like, yeah, sure, we can address the trauma specifically, and it's probably arguably like a really important consideration. But then we got to think about everything else that's manifested as physical symptoms now. Like, as we said, the vagus nerve connects to the gut, connects to other associated organs. We've got like if we look at it on that energetic level as well, we've got the chakras as well. And it seems that like that actually really aligns with what goes on with the organs that are kind of anatomically close to it. Same for anything that sort of manifests on the skin. So like a certain patch on the skin, that you can trace that back to a spinal segment, and that spinal segment will have nerves that run into different organs. So I'm looking at it from that angle, that like, okay, so let's take a full picture. We've got like the symptoms here right now. We've got like the blood work, which I think is equally as valuable to make sense of the symptoms and for the symptoms to make sense of the blood work. And then that whole health history and environment, which again, like environment, when I say that, it's not just like where I am right now, like in the tropics, you know, like sun's out, whatever, like winter, summer. No, it's also like the internal environment. So that's where you're kind of doing that unpacking there. And ultimately, I think you have to really like be able to do it all. Like you really do. I think it is great to obviously like niche in something and be really good at doing a few things, and it's still got to move the needle. But I personally think it's like that first assessment of someone and what they fundamentally need is really important. And that's not to say that like I just think everyone's so different that maybe someone will do really good with like L-theanine, magnesium, taurine, and breath work and supporting that. But maybe someone literally just needs to talk about these things for a couple of hours and really unpack it to comprehend why they may be manifesting their symptoms in a certain way. So that's sort of how I approach it. And yeah, it just really depends on the person and their situation. But yeah, it's just so, I just try and keep it very broad spectrum, because I just know that like, once you understand like how trauma or nervous system dysregulation sort of connects to the whole body, the whole peripheral body, you really have to address everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that you're individualizing it, because it's true. We could have the same quote unquote symptoms, disease, whatever it is you want to call it, and we do need different things. Everybody is unique and individualized. And I see that all the time. And it's like, yeah, we need the foundational things. Everybody needs the foundation. But when it comes to the rest of it, it's like, then we really have to start individualizing treatment for people. It's so important.
Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
In your school community, you're really empowering people with a lot of really solid information. Do you have different tiers and then they can read the information, and then do you have like how do you organize it?
Yeah, so with that community, so it's called like health optimization community, and it is catered for like two people. So people who are dealing with what I just mentioned, like and usually these people that are coming into like the community are actually pretty smart, because they've been working with other practitioners, or they've been just doing a lot of their own research, and they really understand the terminology, and they go in there. And then of course I've got like other coaches and mentees and things of that nature as well in there. So it goes pretty deep. And what essentially happens, there's no tiers. It's just like you go on, there's this first post and it's like, okay, this is what I need you to do. Um, if I can remember off the top of my head, but it's like, post a health journal or learning journal. And that's the most important thing really, is just like introduce yourself, post a health or learning journal, give me a bit of context around your symptoms or everything that I literally just mentioned: symptoms, blood work, environment, what you've been experimenting with. Put the blood work there. And what I'll do is like, I'll just hit I've got like a voice to text AI thing on my laptop. So I'll just like talk for like 5 to 10 minutes and say, okay, you should explore this webinar or this blog or this protocol. And, obviously like it's very different to like working with me one-to-one, because that's going to be significantly more in depth, but I'm getting some pretty good results just from like doing that. And just helping people kind of essentially become their own doctor and their own practitioner, to essentially heal themselves or get them to achieve their health goals. So yeah, there's no real tiers per se. It's just like, you post in there and I'll just tell you what you need to do, basically. And there's just like this huge amount of information. And the nuance is like, as I said before, like a lot of information is good, but it's also bad. So that's why like it's really important to post in there so I can actually tell you what you should look into. So that's the way I've kind of sculpted it. And it never really was like that, to be honest. Like it only just started happening to be like that maybe 3 to 6 months ago, when I started to learn a lot more about blood work and symptom assessment. And I was like, well, like this is really good for people who, one, like don't have the finances to work with me because it's not cheap. And two, just to like be able to connect with other people, like-minded people, maybe join a webinar or a Q&A or one of our weekly calls and dive in. And, for example, like we had a call yesterday and someone just said, like, I've been trying everything around these really short sore shoulders. And like, I think it was a left shoulder, I believe. It was just like always tense. And I don't even really remember saying it, but I think I just said to her, like, just saturate it like with magnesium, like in terms of topically, orally. And she said, like, even through all the body work and stuff, like this is what actually helped. So yeah, I suppose it's like, again, maybe for someone it may be like getting like some decent body work is going to support that. But maybe for someone else, like magnesium and supporting GABA and glutamate balance in the nervous system is what someone needs. So again, it's just like and obviously I'm telling her to try and do like a broad spectrum, like array of things. But yeah, sometimes it's literally just like one thing that just moves the needle so much for someone. And she said her symptoms resolved by 85%. So yeah, it's I don't know if that answered your question, but like, yeah, it's pretty in depth. There's like almost 200 members in there now, to be honest. So I think I've only got about 10 left. I'm actually raising prices when it hits 200. So for anyone listening, now's your chance to join. If you're
Yeah, I love that. Building that community is so important. And I love what you said about empowering them to be the self-healers, because truthfully, we know what we need, but sometimes you just need like a guide to help us like figure that out a little bit. I really do think that. So giving them that community to have that connection, I think, with other people on the same journey is so valuable. But then also like empowering them and to with the knowledge that they need to be self-healers is just, it's so important, because you're not going to be here forever, right? They've got to not know this stuff. Like they've got to teach people so they know the information so they can do the work themselves. It's like so important.
100%. And that's the thing. It's like you go online, you go scrolling on X or Instagram, and you just see so many conflicting ideas. There's like someone who wrote something really aesthetically and it's about a certain supplement that probably doesn't apply to you. So my idea behind that is that I'm really trying to just nudge someone in the right direction. And as I said, it's not like a consultation or like working one-to-one, but it's just like, I can at least just help dissect what you may need, and what is actually applicable to you. So like, narrowing it down from like the 100% of everything that's online to about like 1% or 0.5% of like what is actually specific to you. And then you kind of do the rest in terms of what you think needs to be done, experimenting, being in tune with your body. Obviously like I reply every 24 hours in these journals as well. So like there's still like support there, I suppose, but it's still all about like them, going on their own journey around it. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, so, and that's the thing, right? Like, I'm sure you would have seen me online and I post a lot about like the quantum circadian stuff, right? But like nowadays, I don't know, I don't even like really consider myself like a niche around that. I try and like be very broad spectrum around everything. And I suppose the collateral, I wouldn't say collateral damage, but like it's just the fact that when you're not niche at something, you just don't get as much growth, like from like a following an audience standpoint. But again, it's just like the truth. It really is like, you can't just do one thing. You have to be able to comprehend and understand like what your body fundamentally needs across everything that we've just like mentioned basically, and more.
As a Gemini, I can totally relate, because the whole niche
I'm a
thing,
Gemini.
oh, you're a
Yeah,
Gemini. I love
there
it.
you go.
I hate so, and I'm not a Gemini, so I don't know why that is, but I'm like, I think it's my empath personality that doesn't want to turn anybody down. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to be like, oh, I just do this, so you can't see me, you know, because Heather and I are both classical homeopaths. So a homeopath we can support anything. So it's like, I can't really do that. Like, I don't know. It's like, I mean, you probably would grow if you said, okay, I'm just going to focus on women's hormones. Yeah, I'm sure my account would grow more, but I'm like, I don't know because I have a lot of passions. So it's like, that's what it is. It's too tricky, but
Yeah.
God.
I think it's just like with the content you put out, you're still going to get some sort of audience, right? Like you're still going to have this sort of like niche client or customer or follower, right? Where you're going to have, you know, maybe it's a few, not just like one specific individual, right? With all these traits. But yeah, it's just I'm sort of sitting the same, right? Like on Instagram, like I advertise as men's health, but like 50% of my clients are women, right? So I don't know, it just seems to be it's the energy, like your energy that you present online, like your social media presence that just like attracts certain people, I suppose. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love what you said earlier too about how people will see things online and they'll see the supplement, and it's like you really got to be careful with that. I tell clients because like they're ultimately trying to sell you something usually, typically, right? And then it's like people get like these cabinets and cupboards of, you know, of boatloads of supplements that they don't even know what they're doing. They don't know which one's working. They're like so confused, and it's like you're probably better off just like eliminating most of those and going back down to nothing to see where you're at, because I get that a lot too. And I definitely did that. Like when I was, you know, first starting out on my own healing journey, it was like, well, actually, that was from practitioners. They were just giving me like, it was like, here's your 30 supplements, go. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that was my body hated that. But I mean, a lot of people are just like grabbing the stuff, all the different people, all the different ideas, and like putting it together themselves and like not getting anywhere. And I feel like that's where social media can have like a big disservice in a way.
Yeah, I think like with supplements, it's like for the majority, they're probably taking way too many and a lot that aren't applicable. And some of them may actually be having like detrimental effects. Like you get it with like glycine as an example, where yeah,
Mm.
it acts on glycine receptors to be inhibitory in the nervous system, but then on top of that, it's also required to act on like NMDA glutamate receptors in the brain as like a coactivator. So that is excitatory. So that's like one nuance, and it's like tied to methylation and a few other things. So those are the things where you kind of have to be a bit mindful of. And yeah, like around supplements, or herbs or any other compounds or interventions, it's just like I think it's empowering the client to understand why they're taking it. I think like you need the intention there, right? It's like when someone does exercise, they have an intention why they're doing that exercise. It's like, you know, to feel good or to lose weight or to build muscle, you know. So there's like that intention there. Whereas like if you have like this white capsule, that you like and you know the name of it, and maybe it's some weird name that like you don't even know what it is, but at least like you got to like empower them to know that like this is what it's doing, right? And I think that within itself, like there's plenty of research around placebo being really effective too. So you're not only getting the benefits from like a certain supplement, and again, like you should be using supplements based off like RCTs, randomized control trials in terms of like their efficacy and things of that nature. But you've got that, and then on top of that, you've got like this whole placebo effect of like it working on top from just the placebo. So I think that's like such a hidden power in terms of like being able to use that and leverage that in certain clients. And I think it's just like with supplements, it's just you have to be able to justify using it, I suppose. Like a lot of people, and again, like I think like working with someone and being like, okay, do you want to go all out in supplements, or would you rather kind of like restrict them? I think it's just different people like
Mm.
different things. Some people love biohacks, some people love simplicity and just like, you know, going for more a food first approach, and that's okay. It's just, I think like the whole assessment when you speak to someone, and again, like seeing their language into when you say, oh, would you like to, you know, oh, I'm thinking about 5 to 10 supplements, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, you know, like, but realistically they, you know, you can just tell they don't want to do that. So then you kind of nudge them a bit further. It's like, okay, so what would you like to do? What would you like to explore? But again, like with supplements, it's just like if you can justify using something, you know, based off like research and the client's like individualized needs, then I think that's where it actually works its magic. Whereas like someone who jumps online and sees, I don't know, maybe a post about Butea superba, which is like a pretty popular one right now around like increasing DHT production from testosterone to upregulate something
What
called
is it
5 alpha.
called? What's it called?
Butea superba. It's a herb from Thailand. And
Oh,
look, it's got good research. It increases like blood flow. So they say like it has like Viagra-like effects. So it's like very much like an androgenic herb. And it's all good and well. I think like there's purpose for it. But like if someone's got like chronic gut issues and autoimmune conditions and nervous system dysregulation and metabolic issues, is that something that I'm going to reach for first? Probably not. I'm going to be wanting to address all of that first. And then you make the assessment at a certain time, looking at their labs later down the track and seeing like, okay, there's improvements with testosterone, maybe DHT is a bit low. How you're feeling around like, masculine energy, whatever it is. Maybe that's something you can leverage at that time. So I think like timing is key as well when it comes to supplements, but then it's
yes.
also like justifying it. And as I said before, like I think a lot of people are just being misguided by influencers online who discuss certain supplements. They write it really nicely, it looks really pretty, and they're like, okay, cool, I'll click that link. There's an affiliate code, by the way, and you click it, you buy it. But then again, like that influencer had no idea, who you are, no idea about your environment, your symptoms, your blood work, your health history. So it's like, what good is that, really? You're basing it off like just like a aesthetically written piece on X or Instagram. So that's sort of how I sit with like supplementation.
Sounds like you don't do any affiliate codes.
No, no,
Good
not
for
right
you.
now.
It's
Only
gotta
Earth
go
Runners.
back.
But like, yeah, like I use it for Earth Runners because I think it's just like such a great product. But again, I don't think I actually send that out to people. Like I just, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I forget, to be honest with you. And to be honest, like, yeah, I don't know. I sit a bit weird with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because it's all you pushing the product because you really like it and stand behind it, or are you pushing the product because you get a payback, like so it's it's a little shaky. It's shaky ground, it really is. And yeah, I completely agree with everything you were saying there. And yeah, it's just
So I know we're running short on time, but I want to just go over again your one-on-ones. It's more of a high tier, and you do comprehensive work. You're looking at the whole picture of who they are and labs and all the whole thing, the health history. Tell me some of your some of your cases you've worked with where there was like some really big breakthroughs. I'm really curious to hear.
Yeah, I think probably the most recent one, which was pretty awesome. And again, like, so just again, just to show my rawness here, that like not all of my clients are doing well right now, right? Like it's like a lot of them are doing great, but then some of them are a bit stuck, and we have to really experiment, as we said before, and explore other interventions. And I think a lot of people don't even share that. They think like every single client is fucking killing it, and doing really well. But yeah, you still have some challenges there. And I see that as a challenge of like to me to make myself better and learn a bit more in depth around like a certain case. But one really successful client I had, and this was great because it made me really shift my ideology around like light environment as well, and haplotypes, because she was Ecuadorian. So she was Ecuadorian. She lived near your neck of the woods, Vanessa, in Connecticut. So when I first got on the discovery call with her in about April, yeah, she was very, very pale, inflamed. Definitely just had that vibe where she was very, very inflamed, overweight, and just didn't look like there was much life in her, to be honest. Like not like that energy, right? That you sort of see when you just talk to someone, and they're just so full of life. She just like looked like, sick. And like her blood work reflected that as well. Like there was like candida antibodies in her blood work, which what that fundamentally means is like she has like recent candida or fungal issues like going on because there's like an antibody for it reflecting in the blood. She had Epstein-Barr virus tested positive. She had thyroid autoimmunity. So I think like her antibodies for thyroid were up. She had exposure to mold. There were some metabolic issues in there as well. I think there's a few other things. So there was a lot of things to unpack. And I sort of went into it thinking, okay, well, of course, it's really important, I suppose, not to set expectations too high when you're working with someone, especially if they are, Ecuadorian descent, meant to be living like literally, I mean, Ecuador in Spanish means fucking equator. So, like she lives at like the 50th latitude. Now I was just thinking, well, like as a precautionary, like we're going to do our absolute best here over these next 6 months. But your biology may be working against you where you live. And, you know, not just the fact that she doesn't live in like rural Connecticut. I don't know if there is rural Connecticut, to tell you the truth, but like she lives like in like right next to a highway. Like she literally lived right next to a highway. And yeah, like we worked through it. And we did some early interventions to like lower inflammation and things of that nature. And within like that first 1 to 2 months, like she was actually getting some good improvements, which was like really, really good to see. And then just with any sort of like fungal or bacterial issue, you want to be running some sort of antimicrobials, which is exactly what we did. And through that, of course, like with antimicrobials, there's always waves of people feeling okay, feeling a bit shit, feeling like they're going backwards. But then after those 8 weeks were done, we got more blood work, and like there was just so many improvements. It was insane. Like I couldn't get over it. I was just like, well, like she obviously, you know, it's all good and well for me to kind of guide her, but like she obviously put in the work, and you can tell. And I think that's really important. Like you only get out what you put in. And if you really try and you really have that growth mindset, you can really do some amazing things. Like the human body is just incredible. So yeah, she's almost finished working with me now. I think it's like month 5 out of 6. And yeah, she's like literally going to explore doing, she wants to work full time doing like body work and stuff, and being her own potential health coach, and like moving to Ecuador, or kind of like shifting between 2 and 4th because she's got family there. So yeah, it's pretty cool just to like see that, you know, when you get your health back, you just feel super inspired. And like, I mean, if you see photos of her before and now, it's just like, it's insane. Like the inflammation, you can literally just see the inflammation just disappear, really. So yeah, she was probably one of my best clients. And I suppose the take home from that, the main one for me, is that just because, you know, you're not from the area that you're living in right now, or like your haplotype or biology isn't catered to that, doesn't mean you can't thrive or heal.
Oh,
I think
definitely.
obviously, you know, there's a lot of people in the space that will fearmonger around like you have to move to the tropics, or, you know, you're absolutely fucked, which I just think is absolutely bullshit. And I think that within itself just creates such a fear response that like, okay, you've like that sentence has literally shifted my mindset from like being safe to not safe whatsoever with anything that's like in my surroundings, because I live in the wrong spot. So
And that
that's
is
the
the
main.
most important thing about, that's the most thing, like what Heather was saying before about feeling safe. Like not everybody can pick up and move to the tropics. And if we all pick up and move to the tropics, it's going to be pretty freaking congested there. And that's not going to work out too well either. So it's like, yeah, I think you can really heal in any environment. Honestly, I really do believe that. I don't think that, I think that's total bullshit. And I'm so glad you said it too, because I'm case in point. I live in New York. It's not the best place to heal, but I'm doing it, you know? And I love your authenticity you said about with the clients as well, because first of all, healing is not linear. It is up and down. It is a roller coaster. It's a ride. It depends on how long you've been sick. It depends on how long you've been dealing with it. It takes time. Things don't happen overnight. And there are definitely tougher clients. And that's another thing that we need to share. Like, not everybody's going to get like this amazing result right away. It takes time. You know, sometimes as the homeopath, the first remedy I give isn't the right one. It doesn't, not to the second or the third one do I get it right, because you learn the client more. You learn more about them, and then you can get deeper. You know, I mean, it comes back to us being human beings again, right? Like we're doing our best.
No, very well said. And, you know, it's all well and good for me to sort of, you know, say don't move to the tropics, but like, you know, ironically, I am here at like the 9th latitude. But what I've learned from like moving around, like these last 2 years, is that no place is perfect. There's always trade-offs, right? So like, you know, I'm on an island, but like food accessibility around quality is not as great as somewhere like Australia. Yeah, there's more stress around just trying to organize my fucking visas here. What else? Like even just like trying to get internet. I mean, like it's a blessing and a curse to not have EMFs nearby, but like it makes my job a little bit more difficult. Like I'm kind of thinking, as I said before this call, that like there's every chance that there might be a brownout whilst we have this call, and you know we have to plug in the generator. So there's just like there's trade-offs wherever you go, and I think, you know, what's important is just like kind of making that assessment in terms of like where best serves you, not just what someone says, right? And I suppose the other thing that I probably should have mentioned is like family and friends, like all of them
Absolutely.
are in Australia. You know, like I took a huge sacrifice to, you know, and I miss them a lot. That like I don't get to see them nowhere near as much as I'd love to, right? So again, there's just like trade-offs for everywhere you go. And sure, maybe the light is stronger here, but then there's other things that are weaker. And I think that's a really important thing to note, because it's not all sunshine and lollipops where I am. Like it's just like a mixture of like wherever you go. And you know, does that mean that like you shouldn't travel the world and, you know, maybe explore somewhere else that you can live? Absolutely not. Like, I think you should always be open-minded, but sometimes you're just surprised in terms of what you actually call home.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. For me, moving away from like my family and connection, that would be, and for not only like I have 3 boys, I'm just gonna take them away from everything they know, their grandparents, their cousins, their friends, their family, and just be like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna move to the tropics. Like that's just like not happening for me, and what I'm dealing with in my life, So I choose to stay in New York and I deal with what I gotta deal with and I do my best and it may not be the best environment to be in, but it's not the city, thankfully, it's the suburbs.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the perfect explanation there, like, or example, should I say, that you going to somewhere like El Salvador or Mexico, whatever it is, then you don't get to see your 3 boys grow. So it's like, well, what's the fucking trade-off there, right?
Oh
It's
my
like we're
God.
not even looking at very one-dimensionally if we're only looking at it from an perspective of just like EMFs and sunlight. Well, it's like, yeah, sure, they're very important, as we know, but we have to look at absolutely everything, as we said before. And then you just make the assessment in terms of like where best serves you. And that's the place you should be. Simple as that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we have to bring in all the other things, the emotion, your soul, your spirit. It can't, your family, the context matters. It's not just what is the best thing for my mitochondria. Like that's from a quantum biology standpoint. So this is the good news is we're evolving sort of our approach in the quantum world to look at energy and frequencies from all angles, like we started the show with, from the spiritual world to spirits, the ghosts, your heart, like all of it matters. And that's why I always come back to, you have to know you. You have to be able to cultivate that inner sense of this is what I'm choosing. Empowerment and having a sense of agency is so important. Speaking of that, I want to know as we wrap up here, what's in your future, Jack? Like, what are your visions? What are your dreams for yourself? How do you want to unfold this for yourself?
I love this question. And yeah, I suppose like I love to just continue growing this community, and helping people, like especially those that can't like afford, really in-depth coaching. It's like at least I can give you a nudge in the right direction in terms of what you fundamentally need. I think that's like very much my passion right now, is like definitely centered around that. And then on the side, having like my one-to-one stuff. In the future, I mean, like I would love to just like open a health facility here, to tell you the truth. I think there's lots of it's pretty vacant right now. There's no good gyms here. So I think like a nice outdoor gym made of beautiful bamboo, maybe like a masseuse there, maybe someone like maybe just like in-person consultations, accommodation for people to stay, yoga, like that's something that I definitely aspire to maybe build one day. Of course, that's probably in the far future, but something that I'm definitely been manifesting lately on top of just like everything else. And then I suppose it's just like everything else around like relationships, love, friends, family, just still really just working on that and building that up, as well as like, I suppose, having your own business, it can become pretty obsessive. And it is like your little baby, but it's still important to also address everything else that's important in life, like hobbies as well, like all of these things, even though like one of my hobbies is like literally just reading like the literature on PubMed, but obviously it's
That
important to
really a
dive.
hobby? That sounds like it's more about your passion, but is that really, would
Yeah.
you call it a hobby still? I guess it is. I'm just joking with
Yeah,
you.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, like on Sunday, I try and like work a bit less, like I still have to do some important. Then, yeah, like maybe I'll do some training. I'll go to the beach or something. I've got a guitar, so like I'm trying to learn a little bit better in terms of that. But yeah, I mean, I do tend to see myself just like laying in the sun, grabbing the daylight, and just jumping on PubMed or just reading something. So yeah, I don't know. I'm probably a bit sick in the head, to tell you the truth.
Nah, I love to
Well,
read.
I
I
think
have
it,
obsession myself, so I get it. I totally get it. But I think
Yeah.
that work-life balance is really important. And I think I've really been honing that. I think the more you're in the space for the longer of time, the more that balance happens. And I previous career I was a special ed teacher, Jack. And the same thing, I was like the first 5, 6 years, whatever you're doing it, you're like really deep into it. You're like deep in the weeds of it, and you don't really have that balance. But the more you do it, the more balance comes, I think, is what tends to happen. As for what I'm seeing for myself. So I think that's a good thing. But that place sounds amazing that you're planning on building. So
You're all welcome.
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Love to
Thank
visit.
you. Well, I love that you know what you want. It sounds like you're there for the long haul. You're going to be able to build a beautiful life there and probably have a family, I'm guessing. So I'm so happy
Absolutely.
for you. Wish you all the best with all that. Sounds absolutely amazing.
And before we get off, Jack, tell people where they can find you.
Okay. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. That was a really good conversation. I think it was just like really cool to discuss, not so common topics that I talk about, especially like around just like coaching and, yeah, haunted houses and everything else. Like it's just, you asked some really good questions, which was good. So yeah, to find me, I would say like the first place is jackschroder.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll find links to like working with me. But then also if you go below, there's the school community. The school community is probably the next, well, maybe I'll mention Instagram and X first. So Instagram's Jack Schroder _ X is Jack _ Schroder _ that's SCHRODER. And yeah, I would say like the first place to go, if you want more beyond just like, all the free information that I give out, is to go to school.com/health optimization. That's going to be probably the first step, and then you'll be able to get an abundance of information there. You'll be able to work with me, and I give $100 off to anyone that's in the community in terms of like a consultation. So there's lots of incentives in terms of being in there. And then I also have a Substack as well. I think it's like substack.com/@JackSchroder, but that's just got like just protocols, but nothing else that's like found in the school community. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome, Jack. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. We had a really great time chatting with you.
Yeah, thank
Likewise. Thank you.